Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Thanks, Ellen. This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast. Our special guest today from Edgewood, Washington, just a little town south of Seattle, is Reverend Marilyn Redmond. She is a B.A., C.H.T., I.B.R.T., which we'll find out what all that means. She's also a winning international writer, syndicated columnist, consultant, counselor, regression and past life therapist, and speaker sharing the dynamics of life for healing of your life. So fascinating world you're in, Maryland, and welcome to the show.
Well, I'm so thrilled to be here today, and thank you for having me. It's just an honor.
Absolutely right. So how did you get started in all of these? I mean, there's a litany of things that you are involved in, lots of books that you've written. Where did everything begin with you?
Well, that's kind of an interesting story. I became a school teacher, and I retired from school teaching. My BA is in education, and I had to leave teaching for medical reasons, and so I went to teaching in the junior colleges, and I was teaching metaphysics. And I happened to have a student one day. She came up to me and she says, "Well, do you do counseling?" And I thought for a minute, and I thought, well, as a teacher, you're counseling all the time. So
Absolutely.
I said yes.
Yeah.
And she started coming, and I realized, well, it wouldn't hurt to get some training. So I ended up getting taking various programs that have helped me tremendously move into what I am. And it just kind of started from somebody asking me if you did this. But one of my first trainings was to become an ordained minister to do spiritual counseling, and brought up a lot of other spiritual tools in my kit.
You bet.
Well, talking to those passed over and being able to channel messages and being able to get in touch with the other side for answers is really invaluable, because those are the answers that really work in our lives.
You bet. And being an ordained minister that's not an overnight deal. I mean, that's some effort to become credible with that kind of information, right?
Well, fortunately, my spiritual teacher still and I have become best friends at this point, but she came out to Washington State and taught classes. Her school is called the Natural Psychic School of Metaphysics.
Okay. And
when you graduate, part of the graduation is an ordination.
How cool.
And so fortunately I did that, and then I was attending I'm a lifetime member of Edgar Casey's association, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. And they had a program where two fellows actually, both Henrys, came to Seattle and gave a program and said, "We'd like you to come and become a past life therapist." Well, I had no clue in those days really what all that was about, because this was just early beginning. So I flew to Virginia twice, got training, beginning and advanced training in Virginia to do past life regressions, and the room was so full of these very high-quality people, high-consciousness, spiritual people, that my talents started surfacing big time. I mean, it turned out if you have a lot of support around you, they kind of bloom.
Well, the energy, I can't even imagine what the energy in that room must have been like for you.
Well, I actually had to come out of the woodwork, so to speak, that I could talk to people passed over, and I could see angels, and I could see people standing around the people taking the class, but they were in spirit form.
Yeah.
And I happened to tell one person, as we were both in the ladies' room, and it wasn't full that particular moment, and I gave her a message, and I says, "Who is this lady standing next to you?" and described her, and she said, "Oh, that's my mom." And I says, "Well, she wants you to know." And then she was so excited, she ran into the room telling everybody, and I ended up helping several people at the class with different situations.
What a gift. Oh, my gosh.
Relatives. So it was really exciting, and that kind of opened the door for that.
Yeah.
So, and then I took that's really hypnosis, past life regression, and I became internationally board certified to do that from those two programs I took in Virginia.
Nice.
And then I started taking some hypnosis classes. I thought, well, I better, if I'm into hypnosis, I'll find out more from a different point of view, how to do regression. And so I got on the American Board of Hypnotherapy. So I just keep going and learning, and I really was fortunate. a man in Seattle, I know today he was a master, but he was very humble about this, let's put it that way. And it was because of what happened, you started catching the picture. And went up religiously every 2 weeks north of Seattle to Northgate area, and we went through his healings, and he brought in a spirit doctor. And so my boyfriend and I went up there and took his classes and programs and whatever, and through that, my boyfriend discovered he was a healer. He does pranic healing, and I bring in all kinds of help from the other side, mostly John the Divine from the Bible. I just did a healing a couple of days ago with the leader of the program I went to for education. And I've also brought in Saint Germain and Jesus and Archangel Michael and a multitude of different high conscious.
How fascinating. And the fact that your boyfriend became, or discovered really, that he was a healer as well, the point of view that both of you come from must be a great compliment to each other and a great joy for you to share those experiences.
Well, it's turned out to be terrific, actually, because I still have a few medical problems he's helping me with, and so he's helping me. He had some real difficult times, and I, of course, help heal him. So we've been helping each other. We give free healings every Thursday afternoon at Camp Edgewood in Milton, Washington, which is just a mile from my house. And it's just by donation, and he does his pranic healing, and I bring in whoever is appropriate for the mental and emotional and spiritual answers the person needs for their healing situation, and we've had some tremendous success. He's healed cancer. We had a lady show up that had a fatal diagnosis, and fortunately she followed through very sincerely on the information she was given. And she went to her doctor for a checkup 3 months later, and the doctor says, oh, things have not gotten worse. So she went for her yearly checkup, and he said, I must have disdiagnosed you.
Oh, my gosh.
And we danced at her 25th wedding anniversary last summer.
That is so cool. Wow.
So,
and the key, I think, if I heard you correctly, the key, or one of the keys, when you're sharing, whether it's you or your boyfriend sharing these different kinds of information that you do, the key has to be that person receiving that information really has to take it seriously, really has to pay attention, and really follow through with the kinds of things you're talking about, right?
Exactly. It's if you are ready to receive, so many people have tried this and tried that, and they're finally ready for something that works.
Well, yeah.
We usually get people that are very sincere and very open, because the people that we associate with know what we do, and they trust us, for one thing. That's
huge. That's huge. Because I think, you know better than I, but when, you're going to the carnival and here's the mind reader or whatever, that, really gives a bad perception of the things that you and your boyfriend do. And so sometimes maybe somebody comes in to see you that's looking for the quick fix. Where's the silver bullet? I want to talk to Aunt Lucy. Come on. And it sounds like you are able to screen those kinds of people out pretty well.
Well, part of my prayers is God sends the right people to us. And when somebody up, it's you. As soon as they open their mouth and start talking, I can say, oh, you've been praying for help.
Yeah.
And that's usually the people that show up. And when you're talking about following through and listening to what they need to do on their part, we just did this healing a couple days ago, and he happens to be a nationally bestseller on the New York Times list, and he was giving the program for the Edgar Casey retreat, and he's continuing, and just at this short time, what do I have to do? This is how it's going, and this is the improvement I'm feeling at this point. And he was thrilled the next morning because he felt the blood was actually circulating through his body, and he'd had heart problems. And, so he has other situations we're dealing with, too. So if somebody shows up and is really into it, what I've discovered, and I talk about this in my books and things, is that you have to get to the root cause of the situation, and this is what medicine doesn't do. They look at the symptom, and as you were talking about the quick fix, that's what they're really about. They give you a pill, and after a while they just substitute one pill for another, and they substitute one pill for another, or they give you surgery. And unless it's a broken bone or a heart attack or a stroke, something acute, medicine is marvelous for acute problems.
Yes.
But when it comes to chronic, it comes from your emotional history, your spiritual history, your emotions, your fears are perpetrating symptoms for you to look at them, address them, and say, this is what I need to look at, and I no longer need to have that as part of my motivation. I answer people, 1,000 people a day read my answers to Quora on the internet.
Yeah.
And when I just answered one this morning about a person talking about genetics in their family, and I says, well, that's just the energy, that's just the thinking of the generations that's come down through the generations, and you don't have to think like your family. You can change your thinking so it comes from a different place, and you don't have to have that medical problem.
You know, I love that. It's so fascinating to me because it's so quick for us sometimes to, oh, it's genetic, oh, it's my dad's fault, oh, it's my great-grandfather's fault, and not really pause and talk with someone like you who can go, wait a second, let's have a conversation here and understand that all of these things are not black and white. They go much deeper than that, but we're so quick. I mean, our we go 1,000 miles an hour, right? And we got 200 things to do in an hour. And how do we slow down and calm down and ease our hearts down and our heads down so that we can take in the kind of generous gifts that you share? I think that's hard for some people.
Well, it is for some people, but if they're hurting enough, they generally come with open ears. And most of the situations, I won't say everyone, but a lot of the situations come from our past lives. And doing past life regression has opened the doors for so many of my clients. One gal showed up, and she just couldn't seem to find a fellow who wasn't codependent on her.
Right.
And she was a very successful real estate person. She says, I don't want to have another codependent relationship. So we regressed her back, and in the middle of the regression, she said, oh, is that what I'm doing? I don't have to do that anymore.
Oh, that's awesome. I remember one time I was going through a divorce, and we decided to go to counseling, and highly respected counselor that I'd known for a long time. And so we went in, and my wife lasted half of the first session, and so she left, and it just wasn't going to go anywhere for her. So I kept coming back for a couple times, and she looked at me one day and she said, so how do you feel about marrying your dad?
Oh, exactly.
Right? And so it was like the world was lifted off my shoulders. I finally got it.
Well, I think we all need to learn that very lesson. Thank you. I married my stepdad, and I was in domestic violence. I was raised in domestic violence with all kinds of abuse. I married domestic violence with all kinds of abuse, and my boyfriend today, it's A to Z. I'm getting unconditional love, and it's absolutely a very harmonious relationship.
Yeah.
I will tell you the secret to a good relationship, and it's to give up your ego.
Oh, could not agree more. I mean, we could not agree more. Absolutely. And the other thing, Karen and I are, on paper, total opposites, right? She is high energy. She gets up at 5:30 in the morning and goes swims 2,500 yards because she wants to. And I get on my Harley and go down the road. I mean, those are just not exaggerations. But with that said, we have the same servant's heart, and that's what attracted us to each other. And the other thing we did when we first started dating, we both agreed consciously to do the best we could on any given day, not to stuff anything.
Very good.
Right? Because that's when volcanoes erupt. And so paying attention to those two things and then going through just an amazing life has really been a gift. So I get bits and pieces of which you speak.
Oh, well, I think that's marvelous. Yeah, wonderfully. I never really planned on this, but I went to an Edgar Casey study group called Search for God, and my boyfriend was at this study group, and over time his wife died of cancer. And you know what? We started golfing together, and just one thing led to another, and what I discovered is we were both into service. He does all kinds of service. He's a docent at the museum flight in Seattle. You know, he drives shuttle for seniors to get to doctor's appointments. Of course, we do our healing work with people. You know, he's always out there helping on the board. He was on one time on 6 boards around town and in churches and things. So, you know, and I'm always doing volunteer work and helping and teaching. And I just gave 2 classes this last weekend at a retreat and did this healing I was telling you about because that popped in unexpectedly.
Right.
And so it's wonderful when you're around people that are ready. The trick is if you are not needy, then you can give to others. And I have come from a background where my parents came through the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And everything was hold on tight to a penny. You didn't spend it. And I have moved into a space where I am not needy today. And that feels so good because then you're ready and quick on the draw to say, jump in and say, how can I be helpful?
Absolutely. Same deal for me. I was like, I could not, and again, this goes back to my dad as I learned later on, but I could not please enough people enough times in enough ways. I mean, talk about crazy. And once in fact, here's how I pretty much solved it. On my 50th birthday, I made a list of 50 things to do for myself, nobody else. And I gave myself 1 year to accomplish them.
Wow.
And I did 49 of the 50. And the one that I didn't do was the very first one I put on the list was to get a tattoo. So everything. Isn't that funny?
Never succumbed to tattoos because I just didn't want to desecrate what God gave me as a body.
I hear you. I have 2 really quickly. One, my dearest friend died of cancer several years ago, and so 5 of us, her best friends, all got together and decided to get the same tattoo to honor her, and it's a Chinese insignia for benevolence. And then,
now that
right?
is that's much better than the tattoos I've seen.
Oh, yeah. And the other one I got was when our son went to Afghanistan. He and I went up and got tattoos, and mine is of the cross with the robe hanging over it with the word gratitude underneath. And
how interesting.
Yeah, so those are my 2. We've only got a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure that people are aware of how to get a hold of you. I mean, you do lectures, counseling, you're a speaker, educational, psychic, media. The list goes on and on and on. It's fascinating what you do. You've got a ton of books on Amazon.com, videos. You can go to YouTube and just query Marilyn Redmond, Marilyn, Marilyn Redmond, and you'll see 162 different videos that you can spend some time with. And of course, the best time is to reach out to Marilyn directly and have a conversation just like we've had today. And it's just, man, it's been a real treat. What kind of final thoughts would you like to share with folks?
Well, I also have a website called Angelica's Gifts, and Angelica is my angel that helps me with counseling.
Nice.
And so it's my spiritual gifts, Angelica's Gifts, and I also have a blog, Marilyn Redmond books.blogspot.com. So people can reach me, or my phone number is 253-845-4907. Or if you go to my website, there's links to reach me. On my email is marilyn@angelicasgifts.com. And so it's real important if you want to have a concern or a question or some help. I'm just real eager to help people because there are answers to all these problems. We don't have to be sick. We don't have to live in fear. If you have faith, you can't have fear.
Yep.
So there's many ways to resolve these issues rather than pills and rather than, just superficially. We get down to where it really started, heal it, and then you can have a happier life. And that we're here to enjoy life and have love and share it and extend it with others. And why not?
Why not? Could not have said it better. I will end this with you with a quote that I saw on your blog post, and it says, "The light at the end of the tunnel is not an illusion. The tunnel is."
Exactly.
The
tunnel's the darkness we're walking out of.
Exactly. I love that. Marilyn, thank you so much. Continued success, continued healing, continued happiness, and bless you for everything you do. It's many, many gifts, and same for your boyfriend.
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and you have a wonderful day.
Listen to Your 20-Minute Podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/Your 20-Minute Podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.